My name is Jonathan Parks, and welcome to Jonathan's Nature Crafts. And I made what I thought was going to be the last video to this series, where I am kind of showing you all these little pieces of craft work that were made from junk scraps back between 1999 and 2005. I will tell you all that, of course, I said in that last video there were certain things in which I felt God had a purpose, and He did, but it did turn out that it was time to work on something else, which I did for a while. But even as I record this video, and it's probably going to be late November, early December when this shows up on YouTube, but it just so happened that, whenever the basement flooded and I was unable to continue those woodworking videos that I was doing and keep the series going on that, it kind of happened that in all of that, I found these Kodak CDs on which I took the pictures all those years ago that I had saved to my computer for years, and which were kind of like among the things that, like I said in the last video of this series, were deleted. But it just so happened that when the basement got flooded and I had to go down there to save a lot of stuff, I found these photo discs down there, and this was like probably from back in the days when you still had that film that is a camera that you use to take pictures with, and you take that little piece of film that is a camera and you drop it off and you get it developed, and it comes back a few weeks later in pictures and negatives. And it just so happened, even in those days, there were discs with it that photos came in. I forgot that I had these discs for so long until I went down there into a little drawer of a table that was flooded, in which all the items were soaked and had to be thrown out. But I was able to clean these discs off and save them in order to save the pictures. So while I am at it, I've got something new to share, and it is photos that I have taken out of the book of Judges. As you already noticed on a certain video where I did a song that was based on this that I wrote and recorded years ago from the passage. This comes out of Judges chapter 3. It is the story about Ehud and Eglon. You will notice that in the picture it was like I was using one of those old-fashioned film that is a camera type of cameras that I got developed when I did this. And in the days when they did this kind of stuff, it was kind of hard to get the right type of lights in the room. So in real life, this little thing did not look the way it looks in the picture. It's like some of the light is flashing around it that kind of makes it look like there's a little purple in there. But what it really is I got that little piece of throne from the Dollar Tree. I made King Eglon out of a yellow sock and put a little gold crown on his head made out of a gold pipe cleaner. Where you see Ehud down there, he is made out of pipe cleaners, and I used a piece of green cloth that I wrapped around the pipe cleaner figure to make his robe, and made him just a little handle of a sword to be going into Eglon's belly from his hand, from his left hand, as the Bible says he's left-handed, and kind of put it inside the sock like that. And then you also will probably not see this in the video, but Ehud's head is made out of a wooden bead. So I will tell you all that my uncle taught this story in youth group when I was young, and that was how I heard the story, how I wrote the song about it, made this little display based on it. So that's just a little interesting thing that I have to share. This little display here is based on Samson in the book of Judges. You know, the man whose strength was in his hair, who when he was born, the Lord ordered his mother not to cut his hair, because with his long hair, that was where his strength was. The whole story is interesting, a whole lot more to it than we have time to share here. But my favorite thing about Samson that I learned as a kid in Sunday school was how a lion came out and he ripped the lion in half with his two strong arms. You see here how, of course, I made the lion out of a yellow sock and used a little piece of brown faux fur for his mane. But as for how I made Samson, you can see that I took a plastic bottle that was left over from a drink I had in the school cafeteria off the a la carte the previous school year. That was my senior year, but I was already graduated when I made this. And I covered that with a sock, kind of wrapped some masking tape around the top, drew his face on the top of the bottle with the masking tape, put some duct tape around to keep it secure and strong, and I covered that up with a sock. You will one thing notice that I used some long strands of black yarn to make the hair on the top of his head and make it very long, and I used a sock to cover most of him, or better yet, covered most of the bottle with that little piece of plaid cloth you see in the middle. And you see how I kind of took some pine cones to make the muscles in his arms, made his arms out of the sock, and kind of attached them to the lion. And if I remember correctly, looking back, I used a safety pin to attach each hand to the top and lower part of the lion's mouth. So that was one little interesting thing I had to share here. This little one right here is based on the story of Jael and Sisera. If you remember the story in the book of Judges, there was a certain man, however you pronounce his name, at that time back in the 80s when we were learning this in Sunday school, we called him Barak. Of course, we've had a president since then whose name was spelt the same way and pronounced Barack, so I guess you could pronounce it either way. But the story was that when Barak, however you want to pronounce it, didn't want to kill Sisera, the enemy of the Israelites, as God commanded him to, God decided to ask Jael, a woman, to do it instead. And what you see here is these little figures here are made out of pine cones. And you see that Jael's hands and feet are made from little pieces of pipe cleaner and have a tack holding her down. And I forget exactly what I made that little back of the tent out of, probably a little stick or something, but the tent itself is made from a sock, an old torn sock. And what you see there is how she has that little nail for the tent peg. And the story was that when they invited Sisera to sleep in their tent, Jael, as commanded by God, took a peg from the tent and nailed it through Sisera's head. So that was the story as for the way this happened, and that is what is being shown and demonstrated here. Now I say, let us be grateful for the things that God saved, and for the fact that we were able to get back to recording this very series. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. I hope to see you in the next video. Stay tuned.